is if you've ever done something like that, in the beginning, you're inspired. I'm going to show these people, I'm going to prove to the world that I can do this. I'm going to prove to myself what I'm all about. About halfway through, it's not always that exciting. And if you're listening to this and you've ever started a business or you ever started a big project like writing a book or doing some huge event or whatever you do, about halfway through, we usually hit these points where it's kind of like a plateau where we're like, well, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this really what I was made for? Maybe I have better talents than this. Maybe there's a better fit than this. This is kind of hard now. And when you decide to stick with it, there's two things you have to shift to kind of get out of that rut that I learned about there. And the first was I had to shift my perspective because in my mind, I had two choices. I could quit, but here's what I know. A lot of people who quit halfway through a journey, they realize that they think the next journey is going to be more fun or more magical or more amazing, and that's what's going to cause them to follow through. But in actuality, you're the only factor you take with you everywhere you go. So if you're having trouble with follow through, and this is a key point for rapid results, you got to be consistent. You have to have follow through. And if you're having trouble with follow through, that's more of an internal situation to solve rather than an external situation. Most people think it's because I'm not doing something that I enjoy versus how do you teach yourself how to fall in love with anything you're doing? The first is perception. So I looked around. Granted, I was not getting paid to do this, but I thought in my mind, I said, if I was getting paid to do this, what am I getting paid to do? I was like, stack wood and stack wood with a bunch of people who don't speak English. So I can't even talk to people, which people is my passion. And I was upset and I was looking around. I'm like, well, I'm outside. That's kind of nice. And I thought about it even more. I said, well, what do I love to do? And I made a list. I said, well, I love people. I love volunteering. I love to learn. I love to travel. And I said, I love working out. And I went, wait a second. I'm not getting paid. But if I was getting paid, I would be getting paid to work out every day. How cool. That's really cool, I thought. So all of a sudden I looked around. I'm like, this is just like the gym. Those giant pieces of lumber over there, that's a squat. And this one over here, that's a bicep curl. And that one over there, that's a back fly. And I went, wow, this place just became interesting because shifting my body all day as I'm doing the job that I'm supposed to be doing. And I said, but that's not going to 100% do it for me. That'll physically feel better. But what else would I have to do? And the second key point is you have to shift your procedure, how you physically go about it.
So that's a part of the method
this
of
is
achieving.
You have to have the right foundation. I can just tell you the 7 steps, but before that, I have to set the foundation for you. So we're going to steps. And these are the very first thing you need to know is how to get your mind right.
So,
and to get your mind right, you need to set up the perception and procedure in any activity you're doing to make sure that you can really fall in love with it.
Great. I like that. So before we get into, the 4 principles and the 7 steps, you're all about achieving rapid results, and you're setting the context here. And you've had a couple of experiences, but does that mean there's a difference between a rapid achiever, a slow achiever, and a non-achiever, or are there different levels?
Absolutely. So the different levels that it would exist there is that there's, I guess it's better. Hold on, let me finish these couple stories, and
Okay.
it'll all come back.
Okay, let's put it all together that way.
Yeah, let's tie it all together through a story. Make it more interesting for people. So yes, there are different levels. Let me tie them together here. So what happened was I also had to shift my perception and my procedure, how I physically went about it. So real simple, what I did is I looked around and I said, what else did I love? Went down the list of what I loved. And what I loved was I also loved to learn. So I said, wow, I had just gotten one. It was like 2004. So I had just gotten one of those iPods and I was so excited about it. And I took every penny I had and I went to the iTunes library and I downloaded every audiobook I can get my hands on. So now I was getting paid to work out and learn, 2 things I loved, which now I was passionate about finishing up that 3 months. The next part of the journey, just to tell you the difference between rapid and slow achievement, was, to sum it up briefly, I did a 10-country trip on a ship where we circumnavigated the globe in 100 days. And I got to see the world and realize 40% of the population of the world will never have running water. As hard as I thought life was, I realized that the majority of people in India, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in every direction, sleep outside on the street with their entire family every night, with no food to eat and or shelter to live under. It's amazing. So that opened my heart to what Rapid Results was really about. Instead of being about achieving things for me, it was about helping people achieve the results they need, want, desire in their life so that they could pay it forward. So in coming back to your question, there was one other thing that happened where I went and lived in a village over in Uganda for 3 months volunteering when I got back. And when I went there, it was because my heart had opened to the world. My whole goal was to serve these people by helping teach them organic farming and help them live a better life. In doing so, my life was changed. I was there to help them when in actuality they were helping me. And they helped me realize there's so many things that are so much more important than just result, 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 more and more and more, bigger, 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 better, better, better. They started to show me the value of community, where we had mentioned when we were talking earlier the fact that most people these days don't even know their neighbors. Where there, a 5-year-old boy is in charge of taking the goat 3 miles away from home, tying him up, and walking himself 3 miles back to school. And there's no worry if he's going to get kidnapped or stolen or lost because the whole village knows who he is and he's fine. Where these days, people don't even know who their next door neighbor is or the person up the road or down the street.
Or down
So
the
they
hall.
were down the hall. They taught me the value of community and how important that is. So setting that foundation of learning those lessons, learning the lesson of working hard, having my mind open to the rest of the world, and then really learning the lesson of, and I guess the other reason I was there was to learn how to live without and to still be completely happy and content with my life. Because I was living in a village with no running water, no electricity, no toilets. And if you think all your stuff around you is what makes you happy and content with life, you're going to be in a lot of trouble one day if the market or economy ever falls, which it seems like things might be getting that way. So I wanted to teach myself not only how to work hard, not only how to understand what the rest of the world looks like, but to understand how to live with very little and be totally fulfilled and content with life. Now, with those principles, we came back to your question. Is there a difference between a fast achiever, a medium achiever, and a slow achiever? I wouldn't necessarily categorize them that way. For me personally, I would refer to a book. It's a real simple little flip book called Mastery, and it's by an author named George Leonard. And he's a man who studied Aikido in his life. And he says there's 3 different types. I think he might say there are even 4, but 3 simple ones of the way people go about learning anything. The first one that he talks about is people who constantly dabble. They'll go try something, give it a couple weeks, figure out the moment it gets a little hard, they'll just quit and move on to something else. And then they'll try that one, they'll be excited in the beginning, it gets a little hard, quit and move on. Quit, move on. Quit.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video and be sure to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to this channel for more interviews, and if you want to go further and be live on the interviews, you can go to mmt.tv/live to find out how. Like on Facebook and follow on Twitter to ask your questions, and be sure to get on the mailing list. Go to mmt.tv to get access to all the things that are not contained in these interviews. All the links are mentioned below, and until next time, break the rules, change the game, and be a rock star.